Hello, my name is Kathleen Nichols, and I want to welcome you to Her Voice from the Holy Land. We've made our way all the way from Nazareth here to the beautiful hill country of Judea in a place called Ein Karim. You notice we're inside of a cave. We were outside of the grotto of Mary in Nazareth, and they not only lived like that there, but all over the country. The innermost part of the homes were usually carved inside of a rock. And we're here because there in Nazareth we spoke about when the angel Gabriel came and announced to Mary who the true Prince of Peace would be, not Augustus, not some of the other great rulers in the world, right? So we're going to continue our speaking about peace. And we came here because Gabriel, before he even spoke with Mary, spoke with the owner of this house, and that is Zechariah. So in Ein Karim, well, first of all, what does it mean? Ein means spring. Karim means the vineyard or the field. And so when you come to this place right outside of Jerusalem in this hill country, like again it says in the gospel, it's breezy, beautiful vineyards, olive trees, many things grow here. And even today people come from Jerusalem to rest here. And so Ein Karim, the spring of the vineyard, is a place for rest. And the spring here in the city is actually called Mary's Spring. Now, where Zechariah and Elizabeth had their house was actually what archaeologists show was the house, the actual city or the small town of Ein Karim. The spring, like in every house at this time, was further away from where people lived. So it makes sense that they would be here. Now, Ein Karim is also where, again, Zechariah lived, close enough to Jerusalem since he was of the priestly class. But he also, being part of that class, had some economic means. And so he probably had his house here in the city. And most likely on the hillside right in front of us is another place. And that's the place where usually people go and reflect on where Mary came to visit her cousin Elizabeth as soon as she knew that she was expecting the Lord, because the angel Gabriel told her. And so most likely, as it says in the gospel, when Elizabeth found out that she was expecting, she went into seclusion. In the town, that's hard to find. So she probably went up the road, up the little hilltop in a small house in a vineyard, and was able to be there and reflect on the miracle that was happening inside of her. So what is it that happened with Zechariah? Why are we talking about peace in this sense, in this moment and in this place? Well, not only does John the Baptist have a lot to do with the birth of Christ, Zechariah, in his conversation with Gabriel, the angel Gabriel, helps us to understand another thing about peace. In the book of Samuel, I believe it is, yes, it's 1 Samuel 17, David comes to visit his brothers who are in a battle. And he asks them, how is your shalom? How is your peace? So when we're talking about peace, it also means how is my well-being? How am I doing? And so when we think about Zechariah and what happened to him, we can see what happens with well-being. When we're looking at peace, we know, like we talked about in Nazareth, it's this many bricks in a wall. Where one is missing, peace's wholeness, it can start to crumble. It can start to break down. And this is what we see happens to Zechariah when Gabriel speaks with him. So let's go to Luke, and you can read that together. You have the gospel passage there in your Advent calendar. But he goes into the temple, and he's offering the incense offering. And so this is what it says in the Gospel of Luke. When he entered the sanctuary to burn incense, the whole assembly of people were waiting for him outside, and the angel of the Lord appeared to him. Fear came upon him, and Gabriel says this. He says, your prayer has been heard. What was Zechariah's prayer? Was it like Mary's prayer for the salvation of the people? It very likely could have been. Many people think, he was just praying for a son. He and his wife could never have a son. They were so old, I'm sure that wasn't his most recent prayer anyway. He was probably praying for the liberation of the people. He was praying for peace in a time of conflict. Your prayer has been heard, says Gabriel. Your wife Elizabeth will bear a son. How confusing. What? How can this be happening? And you shall name him John, says Gabriel. And he will be filled with the Holy Spirit, etc. But what happens to him? What happens to Zechariah? Even though he's told he will go before the one who will come, filled in the spirit and the power of Elijah, to prepare a people for the Lord. He says, how shall I know this? I'm too old. There was a lot of confusion there. And that's when the angel said, I am Gabriel, who stand before God. I was sent to speak to you this good news, evangelion. That's remember the Roman word for good news, meaning the emperor has come, or the prince has come, and he has conquered. He's giving him a lot of clues, and there's Zechariah. But then because of his unbelief in this, his stunnedness, this is what's happening inside. Gabriel says, you will be speechless and unable to speak until the day these things take place, because you did not believe my words, but they will be fulfilled at that time. So what's happening to the shalom, the well-being of Zechariah? It's crumbling. It needs redemption. And you can tell that even in his lack of speech and in his confusion. So we know that he comes back here to Ein Kadem. In the meantime, Mary has come. Elizabeth conceives when he comes back. She goes into seclusion, bringing us also back to what happened in the Old Testament with Rachel, with some of the patriarchs, and when the Lord blessed them. So this breaking down of the shalom inside, this need for restoration, is what's happening in this part of Luke. So when the birth of John takes place, Elizabeth, probably being up in the small house, comes back to her own home, because this is where she can find help. And right here, beneath this altar, is the place where John was born, in the innermost part of their house. And it says this in Luke 1, chapter 1, verse 57. When the time arrived for Elizabeth to have the child, she gave birth to a son. Her neighbors and relatives were there. She was here, right? That's why they were all around. And they heard that the Lord had shown great mercy toward her, and they rejoiced with her. Then came the 8th day to circumcise and name the child. And the friends and neighbors, the town, were saying, oh, he will be called Zechariah like his father. But she said, John is his name. Oh, but no one among your relatives has this name. So they made signs to the father. Zechariah, for 9 months, had been thinking and praying about what Gabriel told him. He was being redeemed, the order brought back, peace brought back. So they made signs, it says in verse 62, asking his father. In 63, it says, he asked for a tablet and wrote, John is his name. He's quoting Gabriel. He's quoting his wife. Order is coming back inside. Immediately, his mouth was opened, his tongue was freed, and he spoke, blessing God. Fear came upon the neighbors, of course. They were completely just shocked by this whole thing. They saw the hand of God. Restoration was happening in this house. In other words, Zechariah had been shalomed.